So I want to talk to you a little bit about personality types. Obviously, in this program, we don't have 5 days to talk about psychology and personality types and all the dynamics of teams and whatever. We can do a pretty good job, though. So I've studied many personality type systems or typology systems. I'm no expert on the topic. Those two people over there actually are probably the two experts in the history of the universe on that stuff. I've learned a lot from them. But they're pretty complex, most of these systems. And most of us don't have time to learn complex systems. We need something simple. So I'm going to give you a really simple system that I've evolved for use in business. And I've made reference to it a couple of times. I divide people in business at the most basic level into two groups. One group is the creatives, and the other group is the organizers. Creatives and organizers. And I am wildly overgeneralizing here. This is a construct. This is just a system to use with your brain to help you get to the next level. Creatives, on the extreme end, tend to be eloquent talkers, great at designing things. They can see the big picture. Creative people tend to be the designers of the world, the salespeople of the world. Organizers tend to like to structure things and organize everything and organize all of the details and be the small picture people. And then once you're in those two groups, you can kind of parse them down into other types of things. But one of the most valuable things that I've ever realized when it comes to creatives and organizers is that you need one of each on any team that you start to make it go really well. And here's why. And I've spent, probably a couple of $1 million learning this one lesson. If you put 4 organizers on a team and you say, okay, go get this thing done, go figure it out. The first thing they're going to do is they're all going to sit down and plan the whole thing, step by step, how it's going to work, every single step of the whole thing. And then they're going to take the first step and the second step, and they're going to realize, the plan didn't work. So they're going to stop, and they're going to start making a new plan. And they're going to argue over which step should go where. And then, right? Now, that's actually the better of the two scenarios I'm about to describe, because at least a group of organizers will make some progress. If you put a group of 4 or 5 creatives together in a group and say, okay, go figure out how to do this, you will come back like 7 months later, they'll be drinking beer, and they'll have one of those Nerf-like things and wadding up paper and throwing it in there, and they'll have giant whiteboards, and they'll be laying around drawing all these beautiful graphs, and you'll say, well, what's going on? And they'll say, we figured out the theory of the universe. We figured out all these amazing things. And you say, well, what kind of progress have you made? And they're like, progress? Who needs stinking progress? Why do we need to get anything done? Creatives tend to really have, typically, and again, I'm really generalizing when you're on the extreme end, they just have no sense of time or priority or details or any of that stuff. I'm going to talk bad about Den and Farmer. Where are you guys? Are you in here? Oh, damn it. I was hoping you guys weren't here. We were working on the designs for these binders and so forth. We were sitting there, and at one point we got into a conversation where these guys were talking about like some little detail of one of the designs, and they're going back and forth about all the stuff, and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I will have to shoot myself at some point if we keep having this conversation, this little thing. Don't you guys realize that we're going to this program with hundreds of people and they paid all this money and we can't screw around with this. We just got to get on with it. Now, you can see the result is, pretty good, right? We did pretty well, paying attention to the little details. Right, it's spectacular. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, I can't think of an example right now. That's just the one that happens to be burned in my memory. But I've had meetings where I'll be sitting with 2 or 3 of the organized people on the team, and I'll be saying, all right, guys, let's zoom out and look at the big picture and see where we need to go or whatever. And they'll be like, what are you talking about, big picture? We need the next action step we need to take right now. And I'll be like, well, hey, wait a minute. We need to look at all the pieces of the puzzle. Where are we going? And it'll just be kind of gridlocked. Put one creative person and one organized person together and say, go. And something fantastic happens. The creative person says, okay, well, I see what we need to do. And the organized person starts taking notes and writing it down and saying, okay. And then the organized person takes the ball for a second and says, well, okay, if you want to do that, then I have to make this call and this one, I'm organizing. And the creative person says, okay, well, if you're going to do it that way, then here's what I should do. And there's a dynamic that just happens. And so on our team, I've noticed that if something isn't getting done, if there are not results coming, it's usually because you don't have some of one or the other. And if there are too many creatives involved, it's time to get a good, strong organizer in there immediately to start organizing things. And if it's a group of organizers and something isn't getting done, it's probably time to get some creative, kind of visionary power in there to make it happen. So anytime I build a team now, I try to start with minimum one creative person, one organized person. And don't use these words, don't get too serious about the words, because every person is creative. We're just all creative at different times and different circumstances. And we're all organized people. We're just organized in different ways and different circumstances. Try not to let one group gang up on the other group. Be careful of that. Don't let that happen. And don't side with any group once they do. If you're growing a company and you got 10 people, and because you're growing really rapidly and it's all sales and marketing types and there are all these creative, smooth-talking people on your team, and you got 2 organizers over here, and the organizers are frustrated because no one's doing anything in an organized way and they just feel overwhelmed because they've got to handle all the administrative details, and they're like, you don't understand, you made some deal over here and made this little tweak, but that's going to cost me staying up all night for 3 weeks. You need to go side with the underdog, and you need to stand up for them. And if on the other hand, for whatever reason, you got a group and there's like 10 people that are all organizers, and you got 2 creative people that are trying to do creative things, and everything they say, it's like, we can't do that. No, that's not possible. We can't do it. No, that's not possible. You got to side with them, and you got to get everybody to, try to balance the equation a little bit. And don't take sides with someone if it's going to be bad, and if you can, try not to, if you're defending someone, don't say theirs is the best philosophy. We had a meeting probably 6 months ago with our team. We had about 20 of us in a room, and we were talking about this, and it was amazing. It was actually like a big group argument, and kind of healthy, like a family sitting around a table, where it was like, no, but you other people, you don't get that we got to have deadlines and organized, and then everyone would be like, yeah, and then the other people were like, yeah, but I made the deal that brought in all the money, and it was like, yeah. And I was having fun. I'm like, yeah, go for it. Let's make this happen. Don't underestimate this stuff. It's very powerful. All right, we humans, we really act out of believing that our way is the right way and it's the only way. And you got to support diversity in every possible way. A couple of folks that you want to be beware of. I don't want to say be wary, but just beware. The first type to beware of is the smooth talker. Anyone that is eloquent with their speech, have the red flag go up. The phrase I like to say is, smooth talkers usually aren't smooth doers. And I'm not talking about someone that just communicates well. I'm talking about that person that has that extra polish on them, where they just seem to be way too together and charismatic. Those people usually do not perform. And the weird thing, the trick is that they're usually great at describing systems that perform. They're usually amazing at sitting down and saying, well, yeah, I can see how the architecture needs to be, and you bring in this resource, and I can bring in that person, do this, and we can put these together, and we can do that, and you're like, oh my God, and they take out a piece of paper and they draw this beautiful picture. It's like art. You're like, I found my person. And if you buy into it too much, if you estimate emotionally, like we've been talking about, you're going to wake up in 6 or 12 months, and you're going to be like, I have been thinking that this has been working the whole time because I've been watching their mouth and not their work, and everything's screwed up, and I'm behind, and I wasted all this money. So be really careful with the smooth talkers, and if you find one you really like and they do a really great job in your business, do yourself a huge favor if they're a real creative style smooth talker and get them an organizer to keep their eye on them. Okay? Get them an organizer. Maybe they don't, kind of directly report to an organizer, so to speak, or maybe they don't have someone with a dog collar on them. Maybe it's kind of a partnership or someone that supports them, but just make sure that there's an organizer around all the time, making sure that they're getting results. Typically, advisors and consultants are this type of person. Anytime you meet anyone that says, I am a consultant, there's about an 80 or 90% chance that they're going to really be just impressive with their communication. They're going to pull out charts and graphs and say theories, and I researched all of this stuff, and here's the way it works with all these other clients I've worked with. And you're going to go, I found my person, thank you. I was so frustrated, and you're going to save me. And then what they're going to do is, instead of actually implementing and executing, they're going to expect you to do all the implementing and executing of the brilliant ideas that they come up with. That's okay, as long as you know that that's what it is. So hourly consultants and advisors outside, that's probably what you're going to be dealing with. If you can accept it, good, but don't expect them typically, if they're a real smooth talker especially, to come in and execute and get the results. If you're working, by the way, with outsourced to a professional services firm, attorneys, accountants, consultants, any of those types, do yourself a huge favor. Be a bulldog with estimates and budgets. When you say, how much is this thing going to cost that you're talking about? And they say, well, we could really never project how much it's going to cost. Say, okay, well, unless you can project how much it's going to cost, then we probably can't do business. Really put a boundary up around that. And then, once they say, that project to put your books together is going to be $5,000, say, okay, great. If anything comes up during this that is outside of that, let me know. But make sure it's $5,000. Is there anything that you need to know that would tell you whether it's going to be more? Like, really get into this. And the reason why is because these people are paid hourly. And Alan on our team, you here, Alan? No? Saw him earlier. Alan pointed something out to me once. He said, the attorney firm that you hire to help defend you in a lawsuit, that will fight for you and that will just be on your side while someone else is just trying to destroy you maliciously, as soon as that lawsuit is over, your opponent will call up that attorney firm to hire him for some other thing, and they will say, great, okay, fine. Of course we'll take your money. We're in business. That's what we will do. It's not because they're bad people. It's because that's their model. Professional services firms, I have watched one business person after another, one entrepreneur after another come and say, oh, I found this great company and they're going to, this attorney firm, they're going to handle all my copyrights and my trademarks and all of this kind of thing. And then 3 months later, they're saying, is $27,000 a lot of money to spend trademarking the name of your business? And I say, well, it's probably a lot when you haven't sold anything yet. All right? If you go to a trademark attorney, copyright, patent, trademark attorney, first thing they're going to say is, you got to copyright and trademark and patent everything. You got to protect yourself. You wouldn't want someone to steal your name. Unless you've come up with a name or an idea that really is a blockbuster and you've tested it out thoroughly and you know that it is, then what are you doing thinking that you should spend $27,000 in 3 months of your time doing that? Right? I don't mean to say that I don't want to put a bad light on them, but I just want to say as an entrepreneur who hasn't dealt with them, if you haven't, it can be a bad situation. So be really careful, get a budget, watch it closely, make sure that they hold to it, and be a bulldog about it. And then the final type, and this is a type that you should be wary of. Be very careful here. I found that these are typically the creative types that I'm talking about, the smooth talkers, but it's the type of person that I call the sticky person. Sticky. And I don't want to be negative or critical, but we all got to watch our asses in business because there are a lot of people out there that want to eat our lunch, and there are some unscrupulous people that, I was just reading in that book, Micro Trends. It said something like 1 out of every 31 people is under the supervision or jurisdiction of the legal system in our country. They're either in jail, they're on parole, they're on probation. Something like that, 1 in 31, I think. Now, does it make you a bad person? No. You screwed up, you made a mistake, fine. But knowing that helps you realize that, wow, this person that's talking so smoothly to me, maybe this is what they do professionally. And what happens with sticky people that's particularly insidious, and I've worked with a number of them now and I'm trying to get better at spotting them, is they talk the smooth game, they talk about what great results that they're going to produce, and they come into your organization and then they immediately start building the political system. They start playing political games and building the political system. They start building the black boxes and creating a giant network thing that only they know how to run, and they're talking smoothly to everyone. And by the time you realize what's going on, that this is bad, then you start realizing it's worse than you think, because now they're plugged into everything. So, if someone's a really super smooth talker, first thing, again, the little flag goes up and say, okay, smooth talker, probably not a smooth doer, so I've got to just accept that. Now, I'm not saying just put a stamp on their head and say, nope, they probably don't know what they're doing, but just assume that. Just go, they probably aren't a good doer, so I'm going to have to put a good doer there with them so that they can work as a team. And when they come into your organization, listen to what everyone is saying about them. And if anything weird happens, if you sense anything weird with a new person, dive right in. Open it up. Spend some extra time working on it. Because sticky people can be really, really dangerous. I have a good friend. I used to work with him for a few years. We hired someone to work for him. She had a great resume, had management experience, was kind of quiet even, so she wasn't one of these super creative, smooth-talking people. She came to work doing some administrative work, and after working for several months, she quit and decided to take some of the company checks with her and went on a $30,000 shopping spree. That was a little bit of a problem. You know the good, bad thing, Rex? Yeah, it's definitely over on the bad side. You know, these things, I mean, management, leadership, we're just scratching the beginning of the surface. It just goes so much deeper than this when you're working with stars. And once you get it, and then you're in there and you're working with the people, the dynamics are far more powerful. I actually am looking forward to us doing something bigger together so that we can really get into that and you can get some stars on your team. And then the lessons that you're talking about and you're learning are subtle, but much higher leveraged. So this is exciting. It's also exciting, by the way, for me, just selfishly, I'll tell you this, to be able to share this weird stuff with people that like it. Okay? It is. I gotta tell you, even some of the people on my team, when I say this stuff that come from big corporations, they're like, what's that frou-frou, weird hippie stuff that you were talking about?